Well, it's time for episode 291 of the 3 Point Podcast. We're presented, as always, by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Check out memorialhealthcare.org for everything they offer, including big discounts if you sign up for 2024. Also, I want to thank AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Throw a couple of other shout outs too. Woodworth Commercial and Buffalo Wild Wings, they both were big time supporters of our podcast we had down in Detroit. We usually like to play catch up, and since Matt, you and I did that live podcast at Buffalo Wild Wings, I bet Jared might want to catch up a little bit and jump in here right away.
Yeah, I mean, what's it's kind of funny. It's surreal, but it was also really cool. But also, I felt like I almost missed out a little bit on it because I was working the whole time. It really is the busiest 2 days of my life every year are these state finals. So, like at one point, and we'll talk about the MHSAA and the Coaches Challenge rules and stuff like that. At one point, I just wanted to go take a look at the Corunna crowd. Just wanted to take a look at the Corunna crowd. This is before the D4 game. I went out there and the concourse is just slam packed. You can't even move. There was no way to get to even the lower bowl to see the crowd. So I honestly never even got to see the support really. And what sucks about, the broadcast is all of our cameras are on the home side. So you can't shoot back at Corunna's sidelines. So how was the environment? One, at Buffalo Wild Wings, and then two, kind of walking in and getting your seats at Ford Field. What was that like for you guys?
I mean, I think if you went back, so anyone who didn't get a chance to see that live podcast, it is on our YouTube page now. So and on our regular podcast site too, the audio. So if you want to listen or watch that live podcast at Buffalo Wild Wings, you can go do that right now. It was amazing. I mean, I think they were expecting, talking to Jim and Randy Woodworth and Kori Shook, they were expecting a couple hundred people, maybe pushing 300. I'm pretty sure it went well over 500 people at that tailgate, because on the second floor, there were two kind of private party rooms that were elbow to elbow. I mean, it was like this.
Full.
And then the main floor, which is like your typical Buffalo Wild Wings tables and all the TVs and everything, it was all Corunna people down there too. So as far as, your question about that, it was just amazing. People walking around in varsity jackets and old shirts, and people clearly reconnecting. They haven't seen each other in years and years, talking about Corunna. Right. Everyone wearing some sort of Corunna gear was just super cool to see. I mean, I saw a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a while. Some of my friends' parents, who had been basically since like high school, maybe since I'd seen them. So really, really cool environment at Buffalo Wild Wings. But at the field, I mean, yeah, Ted, very different for you because you got there early and probably shot right up to the press box. But we got there as the Mason game was ending. So Mason played obviously before Corunna. So they're trying to let the Mason people out, and the Corunna wave of people are coming in.
And Mason had a lot of people too.
Mason had a ton of people, and I'm telling you, it was almost turning into panic mode. It was almost turning into, it was just a standstill in the concourse because no one could move. I mean, people were honestly starting to get a little upset because they wanted to get to their seats. What? And they wanted to, probably sit with their friends, their family, or people they went with. And you ended up just having to go find a seat. It was just like, go find somewhere to sit. So I don't know. You mentioned the replay thing with the MHSAA. I don't know what the MHSAA or Ford Field, I don't know what they could really do differently. Say like you can only exit here and then you only enter here. I don't really know what they could do differently, but it was kind of mayhem before the Corunna game.
They have to change it. I mean, talk about a tournament, Ted, and you've gone to these for years and years. Talk about a tournament that's always perfectly run. It's the state boys finals. It really is. At the Breslin Center, it's always awesome there, perfectly done. And what they do is, I mean, they kind of section out what crowd goes where, sort of around the whole entire lower bowl. So I know, obviously, if you're Corunna, you want to sit right behind the home bleachers and be right behind the home team. Right. But whatever, maybe just shift them a couple rows to the right. So maybe you slightly go around the right turn of the right side of the field. They need to do that. Matt, I can't imagine standing in that line. I literally walked out there like for about 30 seconds. I'm like, do I try to go through this? I'm like, dude, there's no way to. You just have to sit here and wait for 30 minutes until you can go to your seats.
It was crazy. I know, Ted, before you jump in. So it probably was super frustrating for the Mason people too, trying to leave. They're probably trying to I want to get out of here. They can't even leave. The one other kind of weird thing too, thinking about what you just said, Jared, kind of maybe try to have sections. probably like beginning of the fourth quarter, the Belleville people started to come, and perfectly fine. Come support your team. You know, that's how it's set up. But it was almost a little weird because we're still trying to cheer on Corunna, and, you know, we're still
just won that game to get over with.
And then, yeah, Belleville is like kind of starting to sit in front of us, and like they're, you know, trying to get their seats, and like it's distracting. We're still trying to watch the game, but now all of a sudden the crowd is turning orange with the Belleville people. So that part was just kind of odd to me. But again, I don't know how else they would do it.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd was crazy, guys. I got there early, as you know, and there was nothing but gold and black in the concourse, and there still was a ton of people at Buffalo Wild Wings as well. And again, I kind of would have liked it if the Corunna crowd would have been on the opposite side of the press box, because they were right down below us, and it was loud, but it would have been cool to see them all together while we're doing the broadcast. But all in all, you know, Corunna showed up, man. I mean, it was impressive. The fans, I guess I should say.
So you've done a bunch of these games at Ford Field, and maybe recency bias and Corunna bias a little bit. Do you think it's one of the bigger crowds that you've seen at a state title game?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it was right up there. I got to give credit to Mason too, man. They had a huge crowd themselves, and they were all decked out in red. So it was pretty obvious, you know, that they were all together and had that whole same side of the field as Corunna. But yeah, I think so. I think it was right there with some of the biggest of all. You know, you've been to a few of these too, Jared. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Corunna at like a Breslin where that crowd could really kind of fill it up, like you probably remember back in the day, Matt. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's just Ford Field's so big, it just swallows up the crowd, and no matter how many people you bring, it still feels like there's still a million more seats to fill. But it was really cool. All the pictures I saw. Here's how you know it was a great crowd: is all the people who aren't from Corunna. You know, Gianna Trotman, all these other reporters from Detroit, D-Zone. They were the ones that were posting pictures of Corunna's crowd, saying, "Wow, the Corunna really showed out." So that's when you know. They really did. I was going to mention
that real quick. It reminded me of the Breslin thing when we went there in 2003 for the Final Four. Obviously, it wasn't a state title game; it was the semifinals. But it was different because, kind of like what you said, Jared, the way Breslin does it, they do kind of try and section off. It wasn't just like you get this,
right?
So I remember as a player, we ran out, and I mean, Corunna filled it up. I don't know if you remember, Ted. You called it on the radio.
I definitely
Corunna filled up the Breslin pretty well back in 2003, but it was kind of like different. It started spilling up into like the higher seats. So I remember it was a little different. I'm sure I'd be curious to ask some of the players, like when they first ran out, you know, Sunday at Ford Field, if they like looked up and were like, "Holy crap, the whole town of Corunna's here."
And, you know, and it was kind of a weird feeling leaving that game. I mean, Matt, you go back to your basketball team. You left that semifinal game going probably, hey, I mean, just the better team won today. There's nothing where, you know, so it was almost, you know, still left on a high note. Yep. And it still was an awesome season for Corunna. You know, seeing them at Ford Field, man, I had goosebumps probably 10 different times throughout that game. Mm-hmm. But just you left the game thinking, and that's when you know you're a damn good team, and they made us proud, man, battling. So you left that game thinking like we could have won that game. You know, it was not man amongst boys like a lot of people probably thought it was going to be heading into that game. Corunna had every shot to win that game. That, you know, they're kicking themselves on that bus ride home. They know that they had every shot to win that game. So just a little bit of a bummer that's how it ended, but really an awesome season. I mean, it's the best team ever without a doubt. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's carry on this conversation a little bit further as part of our prep spotlight. Presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency. We'll get a little bit more into it before we get to college and Lions football. But first, take a listen to this.
When it comes to an emergency, time matters. At Memorial Healthcare in Owasso, our emergency department is Fast ER. We feature low wait times, and we're just a short drive from Flint and Lansing. With emergency trained providers and verification as a level 3 trauma center, Memorial is an acute stroke-ready hospital. For fast, friendly treatment of minor illnesses and injuries, Memorial Healthcare Urgent Care in Owasso and Durand is now open 7 days a week with service from 10 a.m. a.m. to 8 p.m. No appointment is needed, and we're conveniently located on North State Road across from Meyer and Owasso and on Lansing Road in Durand. We offer on-site x-ray and lab services too. Stop in Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. in Owasso and 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. in Durand. Saturday and Sunday, lab hours are from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. in both Owasso and Durand. Memorial Healthcare, Fast ER, and with urgent care, lab, and x-ray services now 7 days a week. We invite you to find out more and visit us at memorialhealthcare.org.
All right, it's a Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency. And, you know, again, going back to the tailgate, it was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of, guys. I mean, it really was. It was a flashback for me. This was before your guys' time. Maybe, Matt, you might remember when I did some of the live remotes on the radio at Risto's Bistro. It was downtown Owasso. It was the days of, you had Marty equipment, so I had to set up an antenna and broadcast back to the station. It was a whole ordeal, but it was fun. It was fun as hell. You know, being in the restaurant surrounded by fans that went to the football game. And this was Risto's Bistro times 10. I mean, it was a madhouse. I mean, we did a great job. I thought you did a great job putting things together. You know, we had a nice double table. We had people coming up, just randomly grabbing them out of the crowd, come up to chat with us. Tremendous sponsorship. Again, we talked about Kori and Jim and Randy, but again, even here, our podcast sponsors kicked in swag to give away. Memorial Healthcare, AZee, Rivals Taphouse and Grille. I mean, we had so many prizes. We were trying to figure out how to do it. So we'd have guests come up, we'd hand them something. We'd have people coming by we knew, we'd hand them something. I mean, it was just a great atmosphere. And, you know, they're going to make an official announcement on how much money was raised for the Corunna Foundation, but it was a heck of a lot of dough.
And that's the thing, man. You know, you talk about the people who are kind of spearheading it, Corey Shook, Jim Woodworth. Whenever they have their hands on something, you know it's gonna be well put together. And that's what it was. I mean, 500 people, kind of can't really wrap your head around it. I mean, you really can't. So I almost wish I could have lived Sunday in like two different lives. One doing what you guys did, and then one doing what I did, which was working. So it looked freaking like an absolute blast.
I do have a question for you, Jared. I know you were in the truck pretty much 2 full days just in your little cave there. What were your specific duties during the game? And I want to say that overall for the Corunna game and all the weekend, actually, but the Corunna game especially, I thought just a real nice job with the presentation, the backstories you guys covered. I mean, I thought it was very well done.
No, I mean, our producers, they do a great job, man. I mean, that's our head Wings producer, head Tigers producers. I mean, all week they're dedicated to that. And I mean, there's 8 games to cover. So it's like Corunna's just one little eighth of the pie. But I mean, the amount of work that goes into each and every one of those games, they do a great job. So I was, it's an AP position where you're helping the producer with basically anything throughout the week. You're kind of his right-hand man with whatever he needs, helping with replays. You're helping the talent with whatever they need. You're helping tell storylines. I mean, for the Corunna, I was the one kind of pitching all those storylines for Corunna and through all the other games, because I mean, we talk about it all year on the podcast. I love high school football. So I think they love having me work this show because it's just, I'm knowledgeable about it. And I played high school football and all those sort of things. So no, it was a lot of fun. And like you said, I really do think Valley does a really good job putting these state finals on every year. I mean, the thing that we loved this year that we didn't have last year was we had the XMO camera looks, the slow-mo camera looks, which those look so good. So it was awesome having those for sure. But it's just cool, man, hearing, Devin Gardner, hearing Matt Shepard, who Tigers, voice for 5 years on a football. It's just not something you hear every day.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, kind of to that point, I had a few friends text and they were asking me if the game was going to be up on YouTube at some point, because they were at Ford Field and they wanted to watch the game on the Valley Sports broadcast, because they were like, it's like you're watching the Lions. It's like you're watching the Lions because there's replays, they're cutting to the coach, they're cutting to the crowd. It looks like it's a professional broadcast of a high school football game.
High def too, so, man. It was clear.
Yeah, high def and everything. And so Valley Sports, you guys knocked that out of the park. And what's always cool to me too is, Jared, you definitely have a full taste of it now. You understand fully how much work goes into it, because you see all these side stories. They have the stories about the kids. The Bauer family had a story, the feature that you did. That stuff takes a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
So when you talk about they're putting on 8 of these high school football games, they have all of those side stories for 16 teams. You know, they've got to be prepared for everything. And that's what, you know, you don't realize, you know, it's not to try and say anything or whatever, but you don't realize when you're watching the game how much pre-production work goes into these games, because you have to be prepared if there's some stoppage in time. All right, how are we going to fill that time? We got to have some stories to tell. And you want to make it interesting. These high school football games, people that are watching at home that just like high school football, that have no idea what Corunna is or where it is, or even maybe have no idea anything about Catholic Central. You want to be able to have stories to tell people watching at home, oh, this is a great story. Oh, you know, I know the Bauer family, you know, the generations.
They did a story on Austin Oginski, Future Farmers of America.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right. You want to have all that stuff that make a high school football state championship game cool. So I say all that to say, yeah, you guys, Valley Sports, you knock it out of the park.
Yeah, you know, and also moving on, before we came into this section, the prep spotlight, Jared, you were talking about the game. Let's talk about the game a little bit. You're exactly right. I think now that we've had a couple days back to reflect on it, and the team and the coaches and everybody, the fans, man, that was a game that definitely could have been won by the Cavaliers. They were every bit as good talent-wise as that Grand Rapids team. I mean, they had the 2 studs, the quarterback and the running back. You know, obviously their lines were good too, but man for man, Corunna was right there and could have picked that one up.
Yeah, I don't think it was the type of game. Kind of, Jared, you already kind of said it. When not to bring this back, but right when we lost to Grand Rapids South Christian in basketball, it was a tip your cap. That team had 5 athletes going D1 in multiple sports and stuff like that. So it was like we put up a fight.
Maybe you beat them 1 out of 20 times.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, you know,
you have to play the best game in the history, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was you guys, you know, good job on you. It wasn't like that on Sunday. I honestly think, you know, you say the out of 20. I think play 10 times. I think Corunna could beat them 4 or 5 times. I think it might be down the middle. Yeah. You know, what team catches a break? Can Corunna bust a big play here and there? You know, and something like that. And that's what was cool to see, because I think a lot of people, we talked about it before, you know, Grand Rapids Catholic Central, East Grand Rapids, whatever. Some of these teams get to Ford Field, and then some of the smaller schools, maybe from the east side, get to Ford Field and kind of get run off the field a little bit. And that didn't happen. Corunna was right there. And, you know, Jason Hutton talked about it. He kind of said, like, get through the first quarter. If you don't get overwhelmed, because it's Corunna's first time at Ford Field, get overwhelmed with the moment, and you're down 21 after the first quarter, get through that, and you're going to have a chance. And Corunna did. And, you know, I think I'd be curious to ask Coach Herrick if he, you know, reflects back and maybe thinks about things that maybe could have done differently, or some adjustments maybe that could have been made. But I think, you know, the players fought till the end. I mean, that's what's cool to see. I mean, you know, they were in the moment. They said, I mean, we're going to fight till the end. I mean, even when it was starting to look like clearly it was going to be a loss, you know, they kept fighting, kept playing. So I think that was a cool thing to see, that how hard they played, and just the fact that they hung. They were there. It wasn't football. It wasn't a we don't belong here type of thing.
And that's football. That's what's sad about it is, and that's what we love about the sport, man. It comes down to, you know, in games like that, it comes down to 3 or 4 plays.
Right.
If the 3 or 4 plays swing the other way, who knows what could have happened? I mean, Tarek, the catch he had that was ruled incomplete on the field. They reviewed it, still ruled it as incomplete. I mean, that was a catch. If that call goes another way, you know, maybe it's 7-14 at halftime instead of 14-0. And then Corunna can come out in the second half and score that first drive. Now we're tied up, and who knows what happens. Now all the pressure's on GRCC. You know, there was the really controversial play, which a lot of, you know, I don't think the MHSAA had the rules right, or the referees. I don't think that it was a reviewable play on that 3rd and 4, which basically sealed the game after GRCC had great field position following basically the turnover there.
You're talking about the Zeman?
Yeah, Zeman, you know, kind of trap / catch. You know, and here's what where my thoughts are on that. It's stupid. They shouldn't have been able to review it. 100% we should be complaining about that. But at the end of the day, I mean, the right call was made. Right. You know, the process was silly. It took them 6 minutes from the time they went into review till they came out to make that decision. Unbelievable. Shouldn't happen again. We're talking about the MHSAA. The coach's challenge needs to be done. It didn't work. it made these games so much longer. Every time a review happened, it's 7 minutes. It felt like every time. So that needs to be done away. That was the first year they did it, was this year. Just a bummer. It happens to be when Corunna's there.
Unless they just did a quick adjustment and just did, like one challenge per half. Let's just make it each coach one challenge per half. That's it. It seemed like that. Like, Ted, were you guys explained? I would assume you guys get game notes and stuff. Were you explained like what the new, or even you, Jared? I mean, you guys obviously with Bally, what the rules were, because that's what people in the crowd were like. Who's reviewing this? Like,
it was explained to us that it was
happening?
A coach's challenge, and I still don't know what I thought for sure. If it's a coach's challenge, that the team loses their timeout no matter what. I don't know if that happened.
No.
I really don't know. And I mean, here's the thing: when we're watching that replay, it was clear as day as soon as you saw it. One look of it, I know it sucks. It's stupid for you guys, Ted, calling the game, that your guys' monitors don't show replays.
No kidding.
I get it in the actual stadium. We don't need people turning on the refs, midway through the game.
Right.
But you saw it, and one look, it took 5 seconds to realize, okay, it was not a catch. Let's just get out of it. But for whatever reason, it took them 6 minutes. So, and that's where kind of this confusion goes on. What the hell was going on? How did they even review this? I don't know. I really don't know what the real answer is.
Weird too. Sorry, Ted. I know you're trying to jump in. What was weird on that is initially that I think they were going to call it a catch because they were talking.
Yeah, they called it a catch.
Coach Eric was pointing first down. Zeman was pointing first down. So even the Corunna crowd started saying, all right. And then all of a sudden the review kept going. Right. And then all of a sudden you saw Coach Eric starting to get clearly upset. So that's where it was like, maybe the argument was it a coach's challenge, or were the ref, maybe, like you said, maybe the refs didn't know the rules. I don't know.
In here, I know you guys didn't get the chance to watch the Mason game, but Mason got boned a couple times on truly just reviews that were just flat out bad calls that they didn't change. So I guess here's my thing is, it's stupid. It was a bummer. The right call was made. So I really can't complain too much about it. I mean, the right call was made in the field. That's all we want at the end of the day, but flat out the process sucks. And us as Corunna fans, man, we would have loved it if they would have just let that one ride and we could have just kept going.
Yeah. So. And like the rules are the rules. I mean, that was a reviewable. The coaches could have made a challenge. Their coach could have made a challenge, but he didn't at first. And the play was stopped, and that allowed time for him to review and then make the challenge. That was the bad part. But you're right. It was the right call. He didn't catch the ball. But I'll tell you what, going back a little hindsight, just think if that would have been held up. And Corunna came out. They did make some adjustments to start the second half. They went to the tight formation, ran it downfield, scored that touchdown on 4th down and 7. Wyatt got in the end zone. Another close call, almost a fumble, but he crossed the line. But okay, it's 14-7. If the catch by Zeman is good, they're lined up to go downfield. They score again. I'll tell you what, then you're right. GRCC's on their heels a little bit. Corunna either ties the game or takes the lead with a 2-point conversion. We got a whole different game. But once that play happened, and then once, the bad punt afterwards, it was over at that point.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jared, that's just how football games go, especially, football games like this and in high school. One play that turns into, an unfortunate punt, it changed everything. Even in the crowd, like you could feel it in the stadium, like all the wind was out of the sails. It just felt like that was kind of our last hope right there. But, still, Jared, you said it earlier. I mean, just an incredible run. We've talked Mount Rushmores and all this stuff. The 23 team is clearly etched in stone at the top. I mean, just an awesome team. Top to bottom. I mean, a complete team. We've said it all year. Offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, kicker, everything. Obviously, skill positions. Just a super good team. What I see, four players made first team All-State. And, that's just super impressive for, a team like Corunna to have 4 guys first team All-State. So, obviously the players, I'm sure, man, I know for a fact they're going to think about this the rest of their lives and probably to an extent be a little disappointed that they came up short. But
forever.
they have nothing to be like.
No, I mean, you talk about somebody who was like, gave me goosebumps watching him play. Eddington played like a man possessed. He really did. Offensively and defensively. I mean, when they started relying on him in that second half to carry the rock, that's when it was him basically just power of mind. Like I'm moving the chains for us is kind of how it felt when they were handing the ball off. I mean, they were showing him, after snaps on offense during that long drive throughout the third quarter where he was all over the field on defense, all over the field on offense. He's sitting there, almost down on his knees in the huddle because he's so out of gas. Yeah. So it was really cool seeing him. He played really well, man. I mean, whoever gets him, whether it's GVSU or Ferris, I think they're going to be really happy with what he does. I mean, I kind of tout him as the ultimate Corunna football player. Oh, yeah. You circle a guy who's like, this guy embodies everything Corunna football, it would be him. And it was just cool, man. Seeing, Corunna, it's not every day you go to Ford Field and you see Corunna's athletes stand toe to toe with a private school like GRCC. So it's really cool all around, man.
Little side note for you. He was playing his guts out, him and his brother both. His grandma, Eddington, passed away the day before.
Oh, I thought
Think about that. Yeah. So a lot of extra motivation there. And again, I'm 100% so proud of this team. I'm a Cavalier all the way. I wore it in the broadcast. There was no bones about it. I was there for the Cavaliers. And what's kind of cool, guys, is there was a couple radio stations up there from Grand Rapids. Brett Bakita, Hutton's buddy there, was there. We chatted with him, had a good conversation. And his counterpart radio station, I forgot the gentleman's name, but we were giving ourselves pleasantries. And he says, "Hey, man, I really like your podcast." So here's a radio guy up in Grand Rapids listens to our podcast. So that was kind of cool to hear.
Heck yeah. I mean, we try, obviously our focus, especially this year, has been Corunna, mid-Michigan, with Ovid LC and other teams making a run, but we try to branch out, get to the Grand Rapids area and stuff. And one more thing, Colster, CC's coach, he said in the post-game interviews that they had a fight for every yard. He was giving Corunna a lot of high praise. So, when a coach like him, who's been there basically every year, they've won 6 out of 8 state titles, is giving Corunna high praise for, how hard CC had to fight to win that. Hey, man, that's cool to hear.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry, Ted, to cut you off. I know we're tying a bow on it, but yeah, it really was. I mean, defense played great. They really did. I mean, in the state, you give up 21 points in the state championship. I mean, we knew that. We knew how good. I mean, what were they giving up 7 points a game heading into the state final? So yeah, they looked really good. Well, my favorite play, real quick, was it was Russell Dixon, their stud running back. Second half run right around the left side, and then it's Eddington, and they just had a huge collision. And it was Eddington running it around the left side. Dixon came in to hit him, and it was basically a stalemate. It was just awesome. So
to really tie it off, Ted, we're burying the lead. That was your final game. I know you might step in maybe a couple times, but officially.
No, that was it. That was it.
Recap it. How cool is it to tie off your long career calling a Corunna state championship game at Ford Field? That had to be pretty awesome.
It was epic. I mean, it was the ultimate to, when you think about it. Okay, the last basketball game I did it wasn't Corunna, but it was Langsburg in a quarterfinal against E-Course, which had a great team, and it was a great way to end the basketball season. Then to come and do my Corunna Cavaliers in the state championship at Ford Field. I mean, it was like Jared said, you get goosebumps. I had goosebumps many times in that game, and it was just a blast. I think we did a pretty good job on it for sure. Casey, Bart, myself, I think because of the longevity of the game, we had plenty of time to get our commentary in, so we didn't have to feel rushed, Right. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. That was a good way to end it. I will be filling in every once in a while as a substitute, but that's it. Walking away from it full time, perfect way to end it. Hey, before we wrap up this go ahead, Jared.
I was just to say, Corunna should be damn good at basketball as well. So we might be seeing it with if they put all the pieces together.
You said your last basketball game was Langsburg. You've handed off the mic to Casey for basketball too?
Oh yeah, it's his now. I'm done as a full-time broadcaster for sure. It's Casey's time now. Hey, before we wrap up this segment, guys, we had talked about it one time. Probably again, people getting tired of us talking about Corunna sports. A couple things. We wanted to do our Mount Rushmore. You want to do that, or you want to table that?
I think table it. I was gonna roll through kind of some other quick little recaps of some of the other games that went on this weekend. If that's good for you.
Let's go rapid fire on this.
Yeah. So the Division I, I'll start with that. So this game, the ratings on this game were insane. And let me just say one last thing on the entire weekend. I love the Saturday Sunday I love that. I hope that that's the new norm, and I loved the moving the Division I game to the last game of the weekend. That was perfect. Really cool.
The one thing I heard some people saying on Sunday was kids have school or whatever the next day. That would maybe be the one thing. Whereas when it's Friday, Saturday, you can maybe go to dinner in Detroit or do something like that. That would be the one thing I heard people saying. But
yeah, I get that. So basically, I'm just hoping that they keep filling that Friday and basically give us no other option is what I'm.
But no, wait. Don't fill it with Michigan State so the Spartans logo is at midfield for the high school. Yeah, go ahead and fill Friday, but
listen, we'll get that.
We'll
get to the Lions,
and it's not because I'm a Michigan fan. Like, no, you're at Ford Field, high school football. The Michigan State logo should not have been at midfield.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Lions, man. The budget and everything they did this weekend was horrible. We'll get to that.
Okay.
God, it was horrible. But Division I game, real quick. So Zeke Marshall, quarterback for Southfield A&T, going to Kansas. What a game! I mean, he couldn't be sad.
He showed up.
He was doing it all with his legs.
Underwood.
Yeah, he basically outplayed Belleville's quarterback, number 1 player in the junior class. I mean, what a matchup that really was, and what an upset. I mean, Belleville came into the game on a 38-game win streak. And here comes Southfield A&T. I didn't give him a chance. I'll be honest. I didn't give him a chance. I've seen a lot of Southfield A&T games last couple years. I really didn't. But that was the definition of a guy putting the team on his shoulders. I mean, I think he carried the ball 20 plus times, threw the ball, 25 plus times. What I loved about their game plan was they said, our best player is our quarterback. We're going to live and die on his legs. We're going to live and die on his right arm. So they bring in 2 offensive linemen. They don't have a running back. And basically they're just saying, we have 7 offensive linemen on the field. If we're running it, it's going to be Zeke Marshall. And if we're throwing it, we're going to have 7 people in pass protection for him. It worked like a charm. They came out ready to play, man. Belleville came out flat. A&T came out saying, we're going to win this game. We're going to go out and win this game. And their head coach, Coach Aaron Marshall, has gotten, some flack about some of their game plans over the year. Their defense played great. Their offensive game plan was awesome. I mean, what a great, great game. And Zeke Marshall, Tassi Bracewell is a stud wide receiver for them, going to Toledo as well. Really, really good kids. So I was just really proud to see them kind of get it done, get over the hump for Southfield schools, finally win a state title for them. Any comments on Division I real quick before I go to Division II?
Just that I didn't watch because, it was after the Corunna game. We were, out or whatever. And I haven't watched the replay. But that's everything, looking on Twitter and, whatever else. People were just so shocked that Belleville didn't win, that Bryce Underwood he played okay, but Bryce Underwood almost got showed up. Yeah. So just a shocker.
Yeah, I don't want to dog on a high school kid, but I think he got a little bit of humble pie. I saw the feature on him interviewed on Bally. Man, he was pretty full of himself, which I understand, one of the best quarterbacks around, but it was nice to see that Southfield came up with a win.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to D2, Muskegon versus De La Salle. I mean, this was a fun game. Tale of 2 halves.
Jason Hutton said that Muskegon had a shot.
Yeah. Wow, Mackay guy. I don't know how I saw after the game he's posting about getting offered by a D3 schools, Alabama. What is going on? What I mean, do we need to get Tony and East on this pod? How is this guy not a Division II recruit? Wow, exactly. It was the performance of the weekend. It really was. He couldn't be tackled. So first half, cool little behind the scenes of how we're kind of seeing it. First half, he's getting killed. They're not blocking, kind of Olay blocks, as you would say. He gets sacked, gets crushed. 2 guys basically sandwich him at once. He goes into the huddle, grabs his left tackle, who's kind of just, you could tell he's really down on his luck. Like, goddamn. He grabs the troops, rallies them. Out they come in the second half. They score like 21 unanswered, and he's running wild. I mean, true inside veer, Corunna football from, your day and age, or even before that, Matt. Just perfection. Just a one-man wrecking crew. Housed a couple 80-yard plus runs, had a throw of a 90 plus, just electric. And good to see Muskegon kind of get over that hump. I mean, they made it to the state final 7 years out of the last, under Shane Fairfield, and they've only won 1 state title. So now that is 2, now that they got it done versus De La Salle. So just Mackay guy. Wow. Not sure why there's not more recruitment around that kid. He's impressive. Division III real quick. We talked about Mason, how big of a crowd they had. Awesome to see Mason make it there. Their star running back, AJ Martell, 4-sport state qualifier, wrestling, swimming, football, and track. Stud athlete, Mr. Football candidate, gets banged up in the first half, can't go the whole second quarter. I love listening to him talk post game.
You said wrestling, he's state qualifier in wrestling and swimming?
Yeah. Basically, The story goes with swimming is he was just the team does a recovery day in the pool. The swimming coach saw him diving off the off the diving board said, "You could be a state qualifier tomorrow." With your athleticism dive out the board. So he came out for swimming, was a state qualifier just like that.
Wow.
Awesome class act kid. I think he's got like a 1430 SAT. But they interviewed him after the game. He's kind of, relishing, recapping the season, tears flowing from his eyes. I mean, if you want to see a great interview, check out the D-Zone's post-game interview with AJ Martell. Really good kid. But for Forest Hill Central, their head coach, Tim Rogers, retired after the game. But they had one stud, man, Ty Hudkins. I think he's going to Purdue, boiler up. Looked like a man among boys out on the field out there. He had the second best play of the weekend behind Belleville with that sweet interception they had behind the back. He made it an incredible 60-yard touchdown catch, almost like what Tarek did in the Corunna game. Caught it, first contact about the 20-yard line, carried, 2-3 guys all the way into the end zone for the score. So good for Forest Hill Central. They got killed by De La Salle last year, 52-13. Good to see them kind of come back ready to play this year, and they get it done. Moving on quickly, Division 4, GRSC versus Harper Woods. I mean, this is Carson Viz and Jake Vermas, the quarterback and wide receiver for GRSC. Wow, are they impressive.
What a game.
And what a game. Those two, what a duo. I mean, I think he had probably the best singular quarterback performance I saw outside of Zeke Marshall. I mean, threw for 400 yards in Division 4. They're two stud basketball players that are going to be quite the duo on the basketball court this year, in a loaded Class B, which is going to have Corunna in it as well. So we could be seeing them down the line. And Harper Woods, I mean, I honestly thought they were going to lose, but they played one hell of a schedule throughout the year. Division 4 school, playing teams like Southfield A&T. They were definitely prepped for this game. Jacob Oden played a great game defensively for Harper Woods. He's going to Michigan. He's the defensive back. Yeah, he played a great game, trying to kind of limit Vermas as much as you could. But that was a really fun matchup, seeing those guys go back and forth. All right, 2 more games. D6, Kingsley versus Alma. I love watching D6 and 7 every year. You see some of these offensive wrinkles. I mean, Kingsley had this wing tee sort of offense where these offensive linemen were doing some of the coolest pulls. They had one play that they housed wide open touchdown on kind of a counter play. Left tackle opens up, looks to his right, acts like he's kind of lost for a second. All of a sudden, the counter comes back around the other way. Spin cycle, leads around the left edge, wide open for a touchdown. I mean, if you want to see a well-coached team with an awesome little kind of offensive scheme that you don't see every day, Kingsley, man, it was awesome. Tim Wooer is the head coach. I want to make sure I said his name. Really impressive scheme. I really loved watching that game. Last one, D7, Lumen Christie wins again. I mean, Herb Brogan, my God, Ted, he's been doing it almost as long as you have.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's 11 state titles now. Just unbelievable. Real quick shout out. I'm a nominee. A lot of people probably thought they were going to get killed in this game, but they had a stud, man. Quarterback Trevor Newerkoff. Impressive on both sides of the ball. We did a pack where it showed him taking off his gloves as he goes from quarterback on offense to DB on defense. And I think he had like 14 tackles, and he was making plays all over the field for a quarterback for them. Kind of a one-man band, really trying to make it happen down the stretch. But Cadale Williams, running back for Lumen Christie, one of the most impressive backs we saw this weekend outside of maybe Russell Dixon for GRCC. I mean, 3 touchdowns. Just a hell of a weekend, man. It was the first weekend in a long, long time. No running clocks. Every game was close. Every game could have gone either way, really. So just a really fun weekend. Tie a bow on it. That's all the divisions. Quick little recap.
Well, don't forget Division 8. Ubley finally gets a win, man.
Yes. Yep, you're right. For some reason, I didn't write them down. I was prepping before we started recording. Ubley gets rematch against Ottawa Lake Waitford, who they lost to last couple years.
Yeah.
They get it done this year. Pretty awesome to see in Division 8.
Now you can wrap a bow on it.
Yep.
Take a deep breath.
Yes. Well, good stuff, Jared. I know you wanted to get out here, and good recap of the high school football games. We'll move on now and talk a little Michigan football right after this.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, guys, how satisfying was it? I know, Jared, you didn't get to see it live, but how satisfying was it to see Michigan put Ohio State down 3 years in a row, this time again without their head coach, Jim Harbaugh? I mean, it was just a big-time victory but for the Wolverines.
I've seen some people take a shot, of course, at Michigan and Jim Harbaugh that they've won these 3 games at Penn State, then Maryland, and then now versus Ohio State without Harbaugh on the sidelines. Take a shot at them in a sense of saying, like, he's not that important to the team if they can win these games without him on the sidelines. And I saw a clip, Colin Cowherd basically said, he's a Jim Harbaugh guy. He seems to really like Michigan in the program. But he basically said, like, he thinks it makes Harbaugh, gives him even more credit. You know, he made the comparison of like a CEO or something when they're not there and the company keeps running, you know, on all cylinders, that it gives Harbaugh more credit that he can prep the team all week, prep the coaches all week, build a game plan, and then he can not be there on Saturdays and things just keep clicking. And it's a credit, obviously, to Sharon Moore taking over. I mean, the Broyles Award for the best assistant coach in college football. I mean, just give it to him now.
100%.
There's no way he should not win that award.
100%.
But no, as far as the actual win, I mean, 3 in a row over Ohio State, Ted. I mean, you beating Ohio State anytime is just the chef's kiss on a season. The last game of the year, even if it's like an 8-4 year, but you beat Ohio State, it's the best thing ever. So when that win comes, giving Michigan another trip to the college football, the Big Ten championship game, and then hopefully the college football playoff, it makes it even sweeter. So, and it's also just to see all the distractions and all the BS off the field, you know, Ryan Day kind of running his mouth a little bit and all that kind of stuff to see. I think Michigan has his number. I think right now, Ryan Day, he coaches the game differently against Michigan. I don't think they know what to do to beat Michigan. You know, they've got all these crazy skill players, the best receiver in the country, and they don't know how to use him. And I just think right now Michigan has Ohio State's number. Ohio State doesn't know what to do against Michigan.
We know that feeling. You know when you don't know what to do.
Right.
We felt that for like 10+ years. Right. Where it's just like we have no answers. It doesn't matter what we do. They're just gonna find a better answer for it. Real quick, bitch. What in God's green earth is going on with Fox? You know, they're shutting down all these YouTube channels that are usually posting these recaps. I mean, I told you guys, I'm not gonna lie. All I've seen of this game so far is an 8-minute recap.
Wow.
They used to have 30-minute, 40-minute recaps. Why can't I watch the game replay anywhere? It's been annoying as hell. That doesn't dampen how sweet this win was. I don't even need to see it. I've seen it the last 2 years. Toughness, grit. They're better in the trenches. They're tougher. They're just more prepared. JJ McCarthy, I don't even know how well he played, but I know that he outplayed McCord.
Good.
And I mean, just it's sweet, man. We don't understand. We talked about it all leading up to this game. I don't know why Ohio State did this to themselves. There's the rumor that they were the ones against Michigan. At the very least, we know that Ryan Day was one of the most vocal guys on that conference call saying Michigan needs to be punished now. Right. And so because of that, we're seeing it, man. Karma. Now Ryan Day's on the hot seat. If they would have just let Harbaugh coach this game, we knew Michigan was the better team this year. We knew it the whole year. We saw it. And I mean, if we're beating them when they have CJ Stroud MVP candidate, I think we're going to be okay going against Kyle McCord. So they should have just been quiet. They should have just took this loss to Harbaugh instead of Sharon Moore. Now it looks way, way worse. And I mean, what do you guys think? Is Ryan Day now on the hot seat? Is he going to be fired for this? Or are they going to keep just retreading this thing and hoping something changes by next year?
I don't know. I think it'd be hard to fire him,
right?
But he is definitely on the hot seat. You know, one loss is one loss, but it's against Michigan. But yeah, he got out coached by Moore. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And he flat out said before the game he was going to be aggressive. And then second series, 4th and 1 near midfield, he punts it. Right then, you knew that he was scared. You know,
and
playing not to lose.
Yep. At the end of the second quarter, they had a chance maybe to try and go for a touchdown, but they let the clock run out, called a timeout, and Sharon Moore iced the kicker. It worked perfectly, and then Ohio State missed the kick at the end of the half. So that was another chance that Ohio State could have tried to put a little more, go for a touchdown. And Day, like I said, I don't know if he's feeling the pressure or what, but no, I don't think they should fire him. But, Buckeye Nation, especially if they end up not somehow slipping in to the college football playoff, Ohio State fans are going to want him gone. Especially if Michigan extends Harbaugh and Harbaugh comes back or whatever is going to happen there. But no, I mean, I think he only has like one other loss in the Big Ten. And it's, so it's like, I mean, he's like 56-1 against everyone else but Michigan. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I mean, what else are you going to do? But
now you guys are in broadcast, and I had to throw this out here just to get it off my chest again. Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson have been big Michigan supporters, but in this game, they seem to have a complete opposite bias towards Ohio State. I was very confused. I don't know if it's because they've been getting a lot of flack from Ohio State fans or what. They flipped on us.
I think everybody roots for the underdog, man. I mean, that's what it is. Everybody wanted to see Big Bad Michigan go down finally. No, Michigan's been the villain all year. I didn't notice that. I mean, like I said, I didn't sit there and watch every second of this game. I'm still upset about it. I'm still trying to.
Right.
I didn't notice that, but one thing I did know was Joel Klatt talking about after the game, one of the sweetest moments he's ever seen in college football was you know, when Zinter had that injury, which totally deflated Michigan. And as he's getting kind of, you know, carted off the field, which, I mean, what a great career he had, All-American. Whoever it gets him in the NFL is going to be lucky. Great player for Michigan for the last couple of years. But he gets carted off the field, and then, you know, the crowd starts cheering, you know, Zach's name. Wouldn't you know what? Play later, Corum houses a touchdown. I mean, what was that like watching that kind of take hold live? What was your guys' opinion of that kind of moment?
I mean, I think Klatt laid it out. If you haven't seen that clip, he talked about it on, you know, it's on Twitter and everything. You know, he was there in the stadium. Ted and I weren't there in the stadium. So watching on TV, but you could sense what you just said, Jared, that it deflated the team because, you know, obviously on TV, they're cutting to all the players watching him, and you can tell I mean, some of the guys were crying. They're hugging each other. You know, whenever any of these like gruesome injuries happen, I think, you know, it's got to give you a sense of like, oh man, that could have been me, you know? So you have to wonder what's going to happen. You know, you wonder how a team's going to respond. And then when they don't show the replay, you know, it's nasty if they're not going to show the replay. And then you just wonder like who they put in. Are they going to be able to play as well as Zach Zinter? But so that was the vibe I got. You asked about, you know, watching on TV. It was like, it was that weird feeling of like, oh man, this could really deflate the team. But then, Corum goes, and then he gives the 6-5 to the camera. It's just like that. After that play, I was like, oh, we got this. I mean, it still got a little close at the end.
Yeah. Where did this rank in your guys' opinion? Where does this rank against those last two wins we've had Ohio State? You know, just as sweet? Or, I mean, I don't think anything can really stand up to that 2021 game finally getting over the hump. But, I mean, it's got to feel good, man, with everything that has happened this year. Seeing Sharon Moore stepping in for Harbaugh, this team rallying around everything, not getting. I mean, it's so impressive that they haven't stumbled. I really don't know how. I really don't know how. It's like an NFL team, man. It really is.
It's amazing. This was a huge win. I mean, yeah, you're right. The 2021, that was the one in the snow and everything else. Cade McNamara, that whole thing, that was incredible. But this one, you know, this was special just because the whole playoff era has changed. You know, this was all the marbles were on the line for probably the last time when Michigan plays Ohio State, as long as they're doing it at the end of the year. 2 unbeatens. The winner goes to the playoffs more than likely. The loser stays home. It was huge. It was awesome. It was just so great to see. And you're right about Michigan being the villain. I mean, what on earth? You know, they beat Ohio State and they still don't move into the #1 spot. I mean, there's definitely a bias against this team.
There is. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I forget who said it. I don't know if it was Rich Eisen or it might have been Joel Klatt. Someone after last night. So we're recording Wednesday morning, Tuesday night. Obviously, the college football playoff rankings come out, and one of those guys tweeted out how ridiculous it is that it's like 12 administrators basically are in a room deciding these, you know, who's going to make the playoff, and not that they don't know what they're talking about, not that, you know, hopefully they're not, you know, because like Ward Manuel, Michigan's athletic director, is on that committee, so you know, hopefully there's not people in there showing their bias, and you know, if they don't like Michigan, they're saying no, we don't want Michigan number. Hopefully none of that's going on, but for Georgia to still be #1 after Michigan, so Penn State's number 10, Ohio State's number 5, right?
5 or 6.
6. So Michigan has 2 wins, one of them on the road against 2 of the teams that you put in the top 10, and you're not going to put them at #1. You know, that it's just really, like you said, it seems like there's a little bit of bias, and I don't know. It seems like to me that they're trying to set it up to make sure that an SEC team gets in. because you got Georgia at 1. If they happen to lose the SEC title game, are you really going to drop them all the way from 1? You're going to move Bama up. So it seems like they're trying to set up a scenario.
It really seems like we're going to have a doomsday scenario. We know we've always talked about it. It's perfect that it happens in the last year of the college football playoff. I mean, Texas sitting there, going to be a Big 12 champion, beat Alabama. I mean, if Alabama beats Georgia, I think Alabama gets in.
Probably.
So it's just there's no way you keep SEC champion out. There's just no way you do that. If you do that, it's not even a real college football playoff.
So that's where we don't have to get in unless we want to, a huge college football playoff. That's where I feel like they're setting it up. Because, if Alabama wins, are you really going to keep out one-loss Alabama SEC champ?
Right.
So
with the biggest win of the year against Georgia.
Biggest win of the year against the number 1 team, Georgia. So then if that's the case, are you going to slide Georgia all the way out with 1 loss? So that's what I mean. They're almost setting it up to put 2 SEC teams in there, which would just be insane. It would just be crazy to me. When you have
let's just
Florida State, Washington, Texas, all these other teams.
There's more stuff to get to. I mean, Michigan. This is the most loaded pod we've really ever had.
Yeah.
So right now they have it as Georgia 1. So an SEC team's getting in. Michigan, as long as they don't blow it, they're in. Oregon or Washington is in.
Yep.
Who's that 4th slot? Who is the lead candidate for it right now? Is it
Florida State?
Florida State. So that's a bummer, man. Is Florida State lost Jordan Travis, so you kind of hope they slip up this weekend. And maybe somebody else can take that slot, like a Texas, but we'll see.
If Florida State wins, they're undefeated. You have to assume Florida State wins, they're in.
Right.
You got to put them in. If they lose, that's where it starts to get crazy because, like you said, Texas, if they win the Big Ten championship, they have 1 loss, but they beat Alabama. So it'd be they have that head-to-head. So say Alabama wins the SEC championship and Texas wins the Big 12 championship. They're both sitting there with 1 loss and a conference championship, but Texas beat Alabama head-to-head. So it's kind of who are you going to put in? If you put Alabama in over Texas, then you're saying the head-to-head doesn't matter.
Right.
But here's the thing, I guess don't you agree, Matt? You put Bama in over Texas
because they just beat Georgia.
Yeah, it's funny, man. There's a reason they're going to 12 teams. But and just kind of bring it full circle. You are right, Ted, that it is a bummer, and that's what made this win so special against Ohio State. Next year this game isn't going to mean the same. Both teams are probably still going to be in the playoff. Or if Michigan, I don't expect Michigan to take that much of a step down. They're definitely not going to be as good next year, but yeah, you'd assume that game's really going to have nothing on the line, that both teams are going to be still in the playoff no matter what.
Well, I mean, yeah, to play a little devil's advocate, it's still Michigan, Ohio State, so still a big deal, but it could be a place in the Big Ten championship game. So, you're still putting value on the Big Ten championship. I don't disagree with you guys because it does take a little away. And then the other thing could be the 12 team, if they end up doing it where the first 4 seeds get to host a game, it could affect that. It could change. Sure. You could host your first round game versus having to go on the road. So there still could be some, but this was, like you said, Ted, this was all the marbles. This was
it.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at next year's schedule too, if Michigan's there knocking on the playoff door, man, with that schedule they have, it's going to be amazing.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to be fun to watch next year. It really is.
Yeah.
Michigan fans need to just relish in this season right now because
no question,
if they go undefeated next year, that's going to be very impressive.
Before we move off of college football, I mean, we got to talk a little bit of Spartans. I mean, they a stinker against Penn State, at Ford Field, 42-0. But the biggest news was signing Jonathan Smith, and everything I've seen and what he's done at Oregon State. I mean, that seems like a pretty solid hire. Not all glitzy, none of that, but seems like they might have made the right choice with him. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think he's definitely a good coach because he took Oregon State, who was bad when he came in, and he turned them into, I mean, they won, I think, 8 or 9 games last year and another good season this year. Yeah. So, he turned them around. Oregon State, not a perennial powerhouse program. He played quarterback at Oregon. He's a West Coast guy. Mm-hmm. I think he's from California. He went to Oregon State, played quarterback there, and then obviously coached at Oregon State. So similar, Jim Harbaugh, Scott Frost went back to Nebraska. It's similar story to that. So that would be my only one thing. Mm-hmm. Does he understand? Does he know how to recruit and all that, the Midwest and the Big Ten? Obviously now, actually, maybe it helps because Oregon, Washington, UCLA are coming to the Big Ten. So maybe now, he'll have some connections, in that sense. But no, I think, Spartan fans were setting their bar high. They wanted Urban Meyer. I don't think that was ever going to happen. So I think if you want to call this a consolation prize, I think, yeah, it's a good hire. The one kind of bad thing, all three of their quarterbacks have hit the transfer portal. Their top three quarterbacks, their three quarterbacks who played this season are all in the transfer portal. So this guy, I don't know if they have any recruits coming in next year, or he's going to have to hit the transfer portal and find some quarterbacks. But
yeah, I saw Hauser transfer because basically he's from that area. I think he's from California, right in their backyard in Oregon State, and Oregon State never offered him. So he basically said right to Jonathan Smith, like, you didn't want me then. I'm not. I know you want me now. I'm not staying. I'm out. So I thought that it's rare you see something like that happen. So I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, I mean, you nailed all the kind of notes on what his backstory is, Matt. The only thing I saw was that he also was kind of offensive coordinator under Chris Peterson, at Washington. I think Chris Peterson is one hell of a coach. He's the famous Boise State coach that really got them rolling. So that's good lineage to have. This was the opposite of the Mel Tucker hire. No splash, all substance.
Right.
He went 10-3 a couple years ago to Oregon State. They've only had 3 double-digit wins in Oregon State history. So it just shows how hard that was to do. I mean, they're a good squad. They really had Washington. If they could have just played that game a little bit better, they probably could have beat Washington a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it seemed like the right move. Let's go the opposite direction. Let's get a guy who's going to be, seemingly is going to do all the right things. Let's just try to get us back on track here. Even if it's just, let's just stay out of the negative headlines for a while. Maybe and he said that basically it's going to be, there's a lot of work to do. I don't expect Michigan State to be great next year. I don't expect them to be, honestly, I don't really expect them to make a bowl game next year. So this is they need to be patient with this guy and give him 2-3 years to really kind of put his fingerprints all over this program, because it's in dire straits, man. I mean, 42-0 to Penn State. My God, on the fast track at Ford Field. I didn't watch a second of that game, but good Lord, can that season just end for Michigan State already?
You didn't miss much. That's for sure. Yeah, I think good hire. Michigan State has to get to the status like Iowa. Consistently, winning enough games to be a 9-win team, a 10-win team. For instance, I don't know how he's done it there at Iowa this year, to be honest with you. I mean, pretty solid defense, but if Michigan doesn't beat them by at least 21, there's something wrong. But I don't see how they can score against this Michigan defense. But hey, funny things happen in college football.
The one thing I wonder if, talking about that game, the Big Ten championship game coming up Saturday night, is Michigan gonna, knowing that Iowa probably will not be able to score more than 10, 14 points.
Right.
If Michigan gets to 17, 21, 24 points, are they just going to go, we're handing the ball off the rest of the game and we're just going to run this clock out because we know Iowa's not scoring points. So, saying, can they beat them by 21? They might just get up 14, 17 points and say, we're good. Here, Corunna. Let's just, who knows? I'll be curious to see how they play that game.
Yeah.
I always love watching them at the Big Ten Championship, man. It is awesome. Yeah. It feels big time. Lucas Oil, awesome location for it. I always enjoy that game. I don't care if it's a blowout, which I expect it to be. Always a fun game. You always love seeing it and collecting that trophy from the Big Ten commissioner at the end, who's not waiting for that. Say.
Especially with Harbaugh back on the sidelines and potentially, he's a goofy dude. He's a weird dude, and he doesn't seem to he doesn't take shots. Even after the Ohio State game, he wasn't saying anything bad about Ryan Day. He wasn't. He might kind of slide something in there, but it's not a blatant FU type of thing.
Right.
So if they win and the commissioner has to hand him a trophy, I'm very curious to hear what he says. I bet he just says the classic, "Thanks, Michigan fans, go blue," or whatever. Right. But
it'd be shocking if he did anything but that. Shocking.
Right. It would be. And by the way, speaking of Harbaugh, Brad Galley, is that his name? The reporter out of Detroit. Boy, he's got some good access to him, doesn't he? I mean, those interviews.
Brad
awesome.
Galley is he's great, man. He really is. He does a great job. I want to make sure I get it right. I think Fox 2 is who he works for.
Yeah, he's with Fox.
Does an awesome job. Yeah, those interviews. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, you say access. I mean, he worked for that. It's not like he just showed up at Michigan and said, "Hey, I'm gonna interview every week, Jim Harbaugh." And it takes time.
It does.
Well, it takes time and
trust.
Yeah, and trust. Right. Harbaugh's not going to give just anyone that access. So, he obviously trusts Brad. And yeah, those things every week are super good. I mean, they, sometimes they walk around the practice facility or Harbaugh's office even, and, they get some like personal stuff going. It's
yeah.
cool.
Well, I love it. Go Blue Saturday night.
Yep.
And let's wrap this podcast up after this little break and talk a little Lions football and see what's going on there. We'll be right back after this.
Rivals Taphouse and Grille is the area's go-to spot for the best in food and drink. Meet up with your friends and catch your favorite sporting events on over 20 high-def flat-screen TVs.
And our 120-inch projection screen.
Rivals can handle your large or small parties and is an awesome spot to put on your fundraising events. Weekly food and drink specials including gourmet burgers, wings, pizza, homemade soup, and salads. Rivals also stocks a large selection of craft and domestic brews. Rivals Taphouse and Grille, the official gathering spot of 3 Point Podcast, located on the corner of Shiawassee and M21 in Corunna.
All right, guys, I was down there at the Lions game.
I forgot about that. Wait, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no,
I can't wait to talk. I was wondering, like, what are we even going to talk about with the Lions? I totally forgot you were there for that slaughtering. I can't wait for this segment now.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. First of all, I want to say, if you ever want to go to the Lions on the cheap as you can, definitely hook up with standing room tickets. I mean, I had no issue at all. Really good view. I was on the second level, right at the very front of the second level at a rail, so I could at least lean against the rail. For a 66-year-old guy, it wasn't bad at all watching the game. So that part was a positive. The bad part was it was Turkey Day, and they played like turkeys, man. That was an awful game. I mean, back-to-back bad games. They pulled it off against the Bears, but they were not ready from the get-go against the Packers. I mean, Jordan Love looked like a young Aaron Rodgers, the way he threw the ball, the way he ran the team. I mean, they got Dan Campbell. We love him, but I think he got out-coached in this game as well. The Packers were ready to go. They won the flip and said, we're taking the ball. We're driving it right downfield against your pitiful defense. Yeah. And
they did.
Now the Lions got to figure out how to regroup.
Pitiful defense that now is going to be without Alex Anzalone for a few weeks because he got hurt, and he's obviously a leader on that defense. We've said it for a while. This team just generates no pass rush. None. If it's not Hutchinson beating his guy, no one else is really getting to Jordan Love or whoever they're playing. So I don't know about you guys, man, but not to move on from the actual game, but I'm starting to feel a little like the Lions might start to let this thing slip away because Jared Goff, I'm not getting into this again, but he's looked pretty bad the last couple of weeks, turning the ball over and fumbling the ball and throwing interceptions. I don't know what's going on there. Like, I saw someone say they wonder if he has an injury because he's not like gripping the ball that well or something. But so they've got the Saints this week, should be a winnable game. But then, they got the Bears again, who they just struggled with in Chicago.
Oh, it's going to be
But
cold.
then, it used to be the Lions have this easy schedule to finish with. Their last four: Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. Broncos are now on like a 5-game win streak, and Russell Wilson has seemed to figure out. So that is not a gimme. Nope. Vikings obviously are playing well, and the Cowboys are one of the better teams in the NFC. So, I mean, they're like I tweeted out or something. They're lucky that they beat the Bears last week because they could be sitting in a bad position. So I think they'll figure it out. I think a big thing is Goff has got to get back to how he was playing earlier in the year. The defense is what it is at this point. I mean, they're just not that good. They're like, okay. You just got to hope that Goff isn't turning the ball over. I think that was a big difference on Thursday.
Well, they're going to have to win some shootouts. There's no question about that. I mean, they can't rely on the defense. And Goff has been struggling. I think, man, they're fortunate they're in the division they're in, though, with the Vikings losing. Yeah. The Lions are 3 games up on the Vikings right now. So
they'd have to completely collapse.
Right. Yeah. They should be in the playoffs. I will say this, fellas. I was so gung-ho about the Lions. Yeah, Super Bowl contenders. I think I've slipped them down a notch. I think just watching them play, there's weaknesses there. I mean, they're having a great season. They got something they can build upon, but are they really an elite team? Can they play? I mean, we watched the Eagles play. That's just a step above, man. Oh, yeah. That's going to be a tough team.
And the 49ers.
And the 49ers. I mean, watching that Eagles Chiefs game, wow. That's NFL football right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's, and here's the thing. This isn't a full apology for my Hutchinson take, but somebody did a great article. I wish I could find it. I can't find it right now. Basically, just videoing him, his first 15 snaps of the game. I mean, he's doubled every snap.
Time.
I mean, we love Brad Holmes, but my God, what was the draft night overthinking? We love Gibbs, but I mean, goddamn, we needed to address the defensive line. It was obvious. We saw it last year. The defense stood on their head all of last year. I mean, how many red zone turnovers did they force? And James Houston had a career year. Probably never see that again. I don't know, man. It just was, what in the F are we doing? And then come trade deadline, I mean, even the 49ers, who are better than Lions, are saying we need to address this issue. And they did. So I don't know. It's just, they're a piece away for sure. I mean, the secondary hasn't been great all year, so they definitely aren't benefiting from having zero pass rush. And so they just needed to address it, and they didn't.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Matt, on the Holmes draft thing, you can debate that back and forth, but I do agree. Why didn't they go after a free agent just by spending the money? I mean, why? A third-round draft choice for some help on that defensive line, that one had me scratching my head.
Yeah, I mean, you can't project that James Houston's going to have a season-ending injury in week 1 or whenever it happened. So obviously they were probably hoping that he was going to be there all year. And then they picked up Gardner Johnson, and obviously he had the injury. So those are things I guess you can't project. But at the deadline, I am just surprised they didn't, like you said, Ted, with the division that they're in, with the position that they were in at the deadline, top of the NFC. I'm surprised they didn't say, this is the year we got to go all in. We've got to make a move because, the Packers might start to get better with Jordan Love. Who knows what the Bears are going to do, the Vikings. So, this is the year we got to make a move, get someone to help Hutchinson so it's not even doubled. He gets doubled and chipped every time. Sometimes he's got 3 guys hitting him and he's spinning and he's running, and it's just it's crazy.
And here's the thing you're talking about this window. I mean, the championship window, look at the Bills. It closes, man, before you even realize it. Think about all the guys we're going to have to pay very soon. Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra is on, a 5th-round contract right now?
Right.
He's going to be garnering, one of the top-paid wide receivers in the league when his contract's up.
Yep.
And there's
if you're going to keep Goff
as well.
If you're going to keep Goff, you're going to have to pay him.
Right.
So
yeah,
Hutchinson's still on his rookie deal, right? So you're going to have to pay Hutchinson.
So, yeah, it's just – I agree with it. This game, it's just one football game. It's hard to win every game in the NFL. But
it is.
I mean, I agree with what you said, Ted. I mean, that was glaring. And you can't say they're a Super Bowl contender after watching what the freaking Packers did to them and then what the Bears really should have done to them the week before, too.
Right.
I guess the one saving grace would be, like you said, Ted, the division. If they can just figure it out, win the division, and potentially host a playoff game, then you never know. Because they do typically, I know Thanksgiving was at Ford Field. They do typically play better at Ford Field. Mm-hmm. So if they can get into the playoffs, host a playoff game,
right,
then you never know. You never know what's going to happen once you get there.
Well, the one thing we just got to put away, we're not passing the Eagles. Try to play for that first round home game. Yes, I agree with that. They have that still in front of them. And then once the playoffs begin, you never know what can happen. But, yeah, they definitely got some things they got to work on for sure. I know we talked about it off air, the whole Jack Harlow thing. I mean, I watched it live at the stadium, and it was absolutely pathetic. I will say this: I did watch the replay on TV. It wasn't as bad,
which is unbelievable because it was bad.
It was bad, not as bad. The sound was okay.
I don't know what's going on. The Lions, they had a bad weekend, man. I mean, we teased it earlier. They can't swap out the Spartan logo, for the state finals. They can't do that.
Yeah.
The end zones for that Michigan State game were still Lions.
Right.
It was just half-assed all around. And then this halftime show, what the hell? I mean, we all knew it was going to be horrible. I mean, go back and watch Jack Harlow's college game day performance from a couple years ago at Ohio State. I mean, what else do you need to see? And so you knew it was going to be horrible. And then let alone they put no resources into it. Literally looked like they had a little blow-up toy for $300 from, Party USA or whatever and said, we're good. And Harlow threw on some sort of winter's coat. It was so bad. That was the worst performance I've ever seen. Ted, you're the music guy. I mean, good God, that was a live performance in front of a big audience on Thanksgiving, and that's what they did. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable.
It was pretty bad. Like I said, it was worse at the stadium. I mean, geez, I know they're playing to a national audience, but yeah, that was pretty pathetic. Let me ask you this. Are you a Jack Harlow fan of his rap, his music? I mean,
when he first burst on the scene, I mean, his big song is What's Poppin'. I mean, all-time song really is. I love that song.
Right.
Since then, he hasn't really, and it's hard to capture that magic. I mean, that song was everywhere.
Right.
But I don't know. He kind of became mainstream. Everybody loves him. Now he's acting. We saw him in White Men Can't Jump. I don't mind his music. He still makes some good songs, but I mean, no, he shouldn't be the Lions headliner on Thanksgiving, for God's sakes.
Especially when you see the Cowboys had Dolly Parton, and I mean, she just had, a Super Bowl level stage and everything like that.
Oh yeah,
made Jack Harlow's look pretty pitiful.
Well, you can see the difference. I mean, you may or may not be a Dolly Parton fan, but my God, she's made it 77 years in life, and she knows what she's doing. I mean, she's a total pro, man. She knows how to work it. So
that was cool.
Anyway, let's anything else we need to get on the table? I was just going to say, before we wrap it up, how can we continue to watch this Pistons team? I mean, they are absolutely horrific.
15 straight losses. I don't know what's going on, man. I really don't. They look good. They started 2-1. It looked like we really turned to leave defensively. Cade Cunningham was taking a step. I mean, I still think Cade Cunningham's a great player, but good Lord, it's been nothing but negative since those first 3 games.
Right.
I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what they need to address. It's just not good.
Well, I saw a clip of Monty Williams. It was either after last night's or the night before game, talking about effort and just saying, questioning guys' commitment and defensive effort and stuff like that. And it's like, man, if we're 16, 17 games into his tenure as the head coach, and he's already questioning effort and commitment, that's not a good sign.
And Matt, we're starting. I'm gonna tee you up here. I mean, we talked about it, man. We saw it with like the Phoenix Suns, where you're in this perpetual rebuild. You need to get like a winner and a leader, even if he's not, getting it done on the court. I mean, Chris Paul, how much would it benefit having that guy in that locker room? I mean, these guys just don't know how to win. They never have. I mean, they've had the worst record by 20 plus games since 2019 in the NBA, which is incredible. 20 plus games below the next worst team. You got to get some winners in that locker room. And
really, like think about it. The Suns had Booker. You get that young stud like Cade Cunningham, and then you have to get a veteran. Even though I'm not a Chris Paul fan, he's a proven veteran winner. You get him in there to get things going, and then now obviously they've turned it around. Think about even Kyrie Irving when he went to Cleveland. Yeah, cool, exciting, great player. They didn't do anything until LeBron came back to Cleveland. Mm-hmm. You have to have some legit veterans. I know they've tried to sign a couple veterans, Bogdanovich and some of these other guys, and it's just that stuff's not going to work. You have to get
alpha. That's what Chris Paul is.
Yeah. Yep. Do you agree though that if you look at their real young core, 3 or 4 top players that are young, they actually are pretty decent. They have a pretty decent future, don't they?
Yeah. If one of them turns in, like I've said 100 times on this podcast, Cade Cunningham can have all the potential. He's got to turn into a legit star. I've made the comparison like what Ja Morant did for the Grizzlies. Mm-hmm. If Cunningham doesn't take that next step, then no veteran is going to want to go there. Right. Even if you sign Monty Williams, who is a proven coach. So it is disappointing though, because the potential is there.
All right, guys.
The Red Wings have turned it on though. I know.
Yeah, and then they signed a aging veteran. Yeah, but he has good credentials. Let's see if he still is healthy.
They're going for it.
Yeah,
they're going for it.
Absolutely, go Wings! I gotta get down there and see a Red Wings game. My wife really wants to go, and I was looking at tickets the night before Thanksgiving, and that would have been fun to go that Wednesday night. But tickets were a little pricey, and she says if she wants to go, she wants to be down at the Glass. So I got to shell out the big bucks.
I was going to say that I was, to tie this thing off. So back to being downtown Detroit. So went back, walked around downtown a lot. I met up with Jim Woodworth before, who helped us with the podcast and everything before, and we were walking around. I haven't been downtown Detroit and walked around like that in quite a while. There are restaurants everywhere, shops, stores, obviously Little Caesars Arena and Comerica and Ford Field. Downtown Detroit, man, I'm telling you, it's, you know, it was even snowing a little bit. So it was kind of cool,
yeah.
you know, to be, you know, in that kind of environment. Downtown Detroit, you can definitely make a day of going down there, do some shopping, go out to eat. There's some bars. There's obviously casinos if you're into that. Like downtown Detroit is super cool and super nice.
I mean, right where you guys are at, Greektown, primo location, man.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I was going to say, first time at that Buffalo Wild Wings, I will be back. I mean, that's a great setup there, location wise. You know, it's 5-minute walk to Ford Field or Comerica. I mean, it's perfect. You know, and it's a nice big, and hey, they got good chicken wings too. We had a whole plate full put down in front of us, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Man, that was fun. You know, just I guess full circle. It really was a good time.
We'll close it out. All right. Well, I want to thank all our partners, who include Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Sign up for their 2024 membership at 15% off. Get healthy, get in shape, get details at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. A little bonus shout out to Woodworth Commercial and Buffalo Wild Wings in Detroit. If you're down there in the D, go definitely check them out. Great restaurant. Also want to send a reminder, man, football just ended. High school basketball on the radio starts this Friday night. Z92.5's Castle game of the week, our first B-ball game of the season. This upcoming Friday, December 1st, 7 o'clock, the Owasso Trojans will travel to Ovid Elsie, take on the Marauders. The Marauders with a new head coach. Should be interesting to see how they are, both teams, and going to be a lot of fun again. Listen to Z92.5 Friday night. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.